Ross, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Excellent, that's good.
We're off.
Cool. Well, I'll put it back on mute and then we'll let people join.
Perfect.
Good morning to everyone who's joined already. I'm just going to give you a couple more minutes to see if anyone else is joining, and then we'll crack on with the webinar. Thank you. Okay, good morning. I think it's time to start now. We've got 42 people who've joined. Thank you to everyone who's joined already. I'm going to do a quick introduction, myself and Ross Drummond, who's also taking this webinar with me. He's got a presentation to go through at the start, lots of stuff to get through today. And after, I'll be going through the back end of the Azure portal, just showing you how we're going to be setting up Jamf Connect with Azure, some tips and tricks as well, and things that can help you set it up a little bit easier. Just to let you know as well, there is a 10-second delay between the presenters and our attendees. So any questions you do have for the Q&A section, which we'll do at the end, please put them in the chat on the right-hand side. And then at the end, me and Ross can go through those and we'll pick out some good ones, which we believe will be useful for everyone. And we will do that at the Q&A at the end. So Ross will be able to introduce us a little bit better. He's got some nice pictures. No cameras today because trust me, no one wants to see what we look like in lockdown. So Ross, please take it away. Over to you.
Absolutely. Cheers, Gary. Let's give us a quick share and we should be good to go. Good morning, everybody. So yes, Ross Drummond here. There's a picture of my face from last year, and then an older picture of Gary, I believe. But we're sparing you our lockdown haircuts.
Yeah.
So I'm systems engineer at UK and Ireland. And Gary, if you want to intro yourself as well.
Yep. So I am the lead MDM consultant for Academia and Atama.
Cool. So what we're going to do today is I'll give you a bit of a background on what's Jamf for those of you who've never heard of us before. And then we're going to dive into one of our products, Jamf Connect, talk about how those integrations work, and then obviously show you a quick video that I recorded for this. And then Gary's going to dive into kind of the ins and outs of it from an Azure perspective, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end. So background on Jamf. We look after Apple devices for more than 38,000 organizations, kind of become the go-to choice for sort of tech, banking, and global business. So yeah, this is just information I took from jamf.com. So this is our platform that we have now. We started off obviously just with Jamf Pro, and we've built that to a whole range of applications and products. So what we're going to focus on today is Jamf Connect, which allows your Apple users to connect to enterprise resources. A lot of you probably will be familiar, if you are familiar with Jamf Pro, which is kind of our flagship product and our core product and where it all began. We have two products for sort of small, medium business, which is Jamf Now, and then focus on sort of K-12, which is Jamf School. But they all manage your Apple ecosystem, so they do all the management for you. And then our newest product we have is something we launched earlier this year. It's called Jamf Protect. Well, it actually announced at JNUC last year, but for those of you in EMEA, we launched it properly in a few months ago. Now it's called Jamf Protect, and that is enterprise endpoint protection, purpose built for Mac OS. And that will protect your endpoint. So their powers combined, you have a complete platform for doing all of the things you want to do on Apple devices in the enterprise. But what we're going to focus on today, like I said, is that Jamf Connect piece, because as I imagine you all are, if you've not already, or looking at it, is that, you know, being an on-prem Active Directory service is something that, you know, a lot of companies are looking to move away from, certainly now as we're all, you know, remote or looking to go remote or been forced into being a remote workforce. Things like an on-premise server becomes much more of a tricky proposition. So, you know, we need something to allow us to move forward in terms of deployment and password synchronization and all those good things, which is why we created Jamf Connect. So Jamf Connect is the only solution exclusively built to streamline the provisioning and authentication and identity management. And it gives that nice thing where users just have that single identity to log in on any Apple device to get access to all their resources, all their applications. You know, Jamf Connect isn't single sign-on, but it allows you to leverage single sign-on, a single sign-on product. That, you know, just really helps you. So the three sort of things we look at when it comes to Jamf Connect, the three pillars, if you will, are provisioning, identity management, and password synchronization. So if we jump into that account provisioning, what that means is that, the big values here are that your users get an improved user experience because they use that same cloud identity provider as they do with their Mac credentials. So if they're at home, they log into, Office 365 on their iPad. It's the same one that they're going to log into on their Mac. It's the same one that they're going to log into on their iPhone. It's the same one they're going to log on to their Windows machine at home, maybe. Admins can require multi-factor. If you're an administrator on this webinar and you want to enable that multi-factor authentication, we can enforce that with every single login using Jamf Connect, and it allows you to, as an IT manager, have the confidence that that single set of credentials is being used across all the devices. So you've got a nice organized Mac fleet. So if we look at the sort of the identity management part of it, use Jamf Connect with Jamf Pro. We'll have a record then in Jamf Pro, and obviously if you're using something like Azure, where your users are logging in on what devices, when and where, and we can obviously have that password enforced password policy. So you can have that strong password policy that goes across your entire fleet, regardless of device, or changing depending on whether they're over VPN. I know lots of people do different things with conditional access, things like that. The other cool thing we can do with Jamf Connect is, rather than that kind of traditional workflow of there's one admin password in all the Macs, everyone in the IT department knows that password. Ross joined and Ainley's left to go work for Jamf. Oh God, we've got to change the password in all the Macs now. Well, with Jamf Connect, what we can do is we can have ad hoc, just-in-time admin access on the device, again using multi-factor if we want, so that you don't have to have that. And again, there's an audit trail and logging of who's logging in on what device with escalated privileges. Then the big thing obviously is password synchronization. Now I've done some webinars recently with a couple of different identity providers. We say 31%. I know OneLogin say 50%. And then Okta say somewhere in 40%. I don't know what Microsoft's number is, but a lot, up to half of help desk tickets are password resets. So, different studies are showing different things, obviously, but I think anybody who's ever worked in an IT support desk know that, first day back at school, first day back after a holiday, first day back after a bank holiday weekend, like we've all just had, the calls you get in are, oh, my password expired. Can you reset my password for me? And I think something like Jamf Connect can really enable and empower your users to do that themselves, stay on top of those things, and take a load off of your service desk so you can carry on and focus on the important things at hand. So I'll give you a quick a walkthrough. Like I said, it's a video I made of Jamf Connect with Azure, and this will just walk you through, for those that have never seen it before, just the whole device enrollment process. So give you an idea of what that looks like. So we have a Mac, obviously, that is in Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, bought from Academia or Tama. They've registered it with your Apple your Apple account. You've got that token into Jamf Pro, so that when they first log in, we see this remote management screen. Now, during remote management, a couple of things happen. We install the Jamf agent, we install the Jamf, so the MDM configuration profiles, and in this instance, we're installing Jamf Connect as well for that login piece, so that when the device enrolls, the first thing we see, we're going to skip all of those traditional things that we normally see, setting up Touch ID, setting up, accepting terms and conditions, setting up Siri, light management. We can control that stuff in the background. You can give your users the ability to enable those features if you want. But what we were trying to do here is get the users from that initial turning on the machine, taking it out of the box, connected to the network, and getting logged in. So the only thing I've done here is I've set my location, so we can get those location services, and then we're straight to Jamf Connect. And I'm logging in with Azure. You can see here, I was recording. I've just noticed there's a calendar notification. So I'm logging in with my username and password. I've got multi-factor set up, so I get a notification on my iPhone. If you've got an Apple Watch, you can have that set up here. And the nice thing is, obviously, all these multi-factor things, if you've got new users being onboarded, they can accept those straight away, so they don't have to call the service desk on the first day. So when they get their machine, it's ready to go. I then pop my password in one more time, because that's what we're doing here is we authenticate against Azure, say, yeah, that is good. That's good to go. And then because we're not doing sort of anything unholy where we sort of do key logging or password parsing locally on the device, we don't want to do that. It's obviously very insecure. We then do an ROPG check. That's what it's called. We're just doing a check against Azure, saying, hey, is this password correct with this username? It says yes. I get a EULA. I've used the lyrics to a Slayer song there. And then we're handed over to Jamf Connect Notify. So we're doing that initial configuration. So setting up the VPN, the printer, agents are in there, finishing up so that when all is said and done, I've taken us from brand new out of the box, logged in with a username and password, the Azure credentials configured, and then at my desktop, in really a matter of minutes. So it's really powerful proposition, really cool thing to have. Jamf Connect, Jamf Pro work really well together. Gary's going to walk us through sort of the back end of Azure and sort of some of the configurations within in Jamf Connect, what we can do with plist and things like that. For the techie folks out there, there is things in Jamf Pro if you just want to do a real simple deployment. There's a pre-made configuration profile. We have something called Jamf Connect Configurator, so you can get this up and running really quickly. And Gary will show you that in a few minutes. But so there's kind of the big benefits to you as an administrator of using something like Jamf Connect is, you can dynamically update these configuration options. So what that means is that, you can add and take away things. There's a lot of new updates happen, things change in Microsoft. Anybody that's ever used Azure knows that, menu bars, things. In fact, what Gary and I were working on this together, he showed me some functionality in Azure that I didn't realize had changed since I last set up Jamf Connect. So, things change a lot. And, we release new versions of Jamf Connect really regularly, and it's really easy to update those configurations and redeploy Jamf Connect as and when you need to do those updates. Obviously, the other big benefit for you as an admin is the moment a user gets a device, they're immediately associated with that device during that enrollment process. So from an inventory perspective, it's super useful. We're also going to get that consistent username across. So, regardless of whether you logging into, they're going to get that same short name or however you've set up your Azure. So that's also really useful. And we also get immediate file vault encryption. So we can do some really cool things using Jamf Connect to create and get a secure token immediately during login, so that the moment a user logs in, that file vault is encrypted and good to go. From a user perspective, again, they are logging in with the credentials that they know and use all the time. The multi-factor authentication that they've used on other devices, and it gets a really nice simple workflow. Combine that with things like the Jamf Connect Notify, the EULA, you get that nice kind of professional, slick setup that you'd expect on any device. So you just get that kind of really nice start to finish experience. So that is Jamf Connect. The provisioning of it, the identity management, and the password synchronization. So I'm going to hand you over to Mr. Collins, who's going to take us through the rest, and we'll go and look at Azure.
Cool. Thank you very much. Cheers for that, Ross. Really appreciate it. Let me just share my screen with you guys. So hopefully you can all see this. Can you see that, Ross?
Let me exit. Yes, all good.
Excellent. Cool. So yeah, some really good stuff there. It's excellent for Ross to show us, but basically what the goal is behind this, and and what we're trying to achieve. And I think doing some of these webinars and doing presentations and stuff, we speak to people and we realize that they want to look at the kind of back end stuff and say, oh, that's really cool, look how that works. But we also want to see like what's in the kind of nitty gritty back end stuff as well. Hopefully this doesn't scare away too many people. It's actually really easy once you get your head around setting up the fundamentals of Jamf Connect and the application. So it can be quite daunting at first. I mean, the first time I did it, you know, you say, wow, that's really cool, look at this, and then you try and do it, and you go, what can we do? How do we set this up? There's some really good docs online. Academia would be more than happy to help anyone as well. So if you have any questions or you want to reach out to me, please do so, and we can help you on this journey as well. So first thing we should do before any moving on, by the way, my screen is not frozen. I am just talking you through some bits at the moment. Prereqs, really, before we delve into this stuff here. You will need a Jamf Connect license if you're looking to implement Jamf Connect.
Oh, hold on, Gary. We're getting a few folks in the chat saying we're having some issues with your screen. I don't know if you want to...
I believe it's because I'm not doing anything at the moment.
Okay.
So if I click that, people should be able to see it's changed now.
Let's just give them a second. No, can't see Gary's screen yet. Sorry, do you want to hit the magic button?
The panic button, okay.
Yeah.
Let's
I don't
reload
want to call
this.
it the panic button. Yeah.
Apologies to everyone. We seem to be having a little bit of a difficulty here. I will actually try resharing first.
Yeah, cool. Sorry to after
No. I'm
such a slick presentation I gave you. That
it's totally fine.
Those are technical issues.
Okay, so I've shared again.
Folks are happy with that. See.
Let's see if this is any better.
Great success. All right,
we're good to go. Bingo, excellent. Working, excellent. Woohoo. Good.
There we go.
Excellent. Okay, so we haven't actually done anything on the screen yet, which is kind of good news. So I'm just going to go back, and we'll go through the prereqs. So I'm glad you can now see my screen. And what we need as well is to set this up, we need a Jamf Connect license or a trial license. So if you want to get a trial license, I guess speak to Jamf and they'll point in the right direction. And if you're looking to implement Jamf Connect yourself, then obviously you'll have the licensing already available. You need a Microsoft Azure account with Azure Active Directory. As you can see here, this is our test environment. We need to set up the native Jamf Connect login application within Azure AD. We're going to be going through that today. And your users will need a license if you want to use stuff like multi-factor authentication. And most of your users will have an O365 license anyway. For MFA, it will be the EMS E3 license. And for educational users, I believe it is the A3 license. Please correct me if I'm wrong. So let's move on. So what we'll do is we'll have a look into Azure Active Directory. And we're going to look at our users first of all. And as you can see, I've got a lovely set of fake people in here, which is great. And Alex Wilbur will be, our test user we're going to look at. We just want to make sure that the user has the correct licensing. So on the left here, if I click licenses, there is my EMS license here. So I'm ready to go, perfect, on the user section here, okay? So the next part of this really is looking at building the application. So within Azure, once you get used to it, like I said, it's not too difficult. We're going to be doing the app registration first, and then that will give us an application in enterprise applications where we can change some more settings, okay? So in app registrations here, you're going to see on my screen that I've already got some stuff here. If some of you have set up Intune and things like that, you'll know you have to set up your Jamf conditional access application, and it's exactly the same as a Jamf Connect login. So if I go to a new one to show you how it's set up, so I would say Jamf Connect test webinar app, and it's going to affect this organization only. This is my test environment, and we would select native. We want the native desktop app, and the address for this is loopback address to Jamf. All of this information can be found through Jamf's documentation as well. So you'll read all this and see where all this stuff does need to go. Okay, and then you pretty much register the application. But I'm not going to do that for now because I don't need to. We've already got one, and this is the one that I'm using here, Jamf Connect login. So we've created an application. This is now what we can see, and we have some things that we can actually edit and change in here. Some really cool little tips I can show you guys. One of the main things that we want to take note of is our application client ID here. There's a nice little copy button here which you can copy, but we'll come back to that later. but there's a few, scary looking IDs in here, and this is the main one we want to be focusing on. So one of the cool things in here is there's lots down here on the side again, which can be daunting, but is the manifest, which I'm going to show you. So it's a nice, confusing looking list that looks like this. Let's drag it down a little bit. And this is the section we're going to be focusing on here. So this is really, really cool. We have our app roles in here. Okay, so we've got our member type. So we have an admin user and we have a standard user, which is probably what you would normally see within any working environment. You have some administrators and then you have your standard user groups as well. Okay, so in here we have got two IDs as well, which need to be set up. These are generated in terminal by typing in a simple command. They don't actually mean anything for now. The command can be found online. If any of you guys want documentation after, please reach out to me, and I'll point you in the right direction. This just gives these IDs to an admin user, so they would get this ID, and the standard user would get this ID. Okay, and I'm going to show you basically where we change these things within the user settings to see what they actually get, what roles they're assigned to. So we go back to authentication here on the app. There's our loopback, which is there, which is correct. That's the one we want selected, which it is. Otherwise, we could tick one of these here. And we go down to the bottom. And this is really important here. So you can't assign the user roles unless this is set to no down here. So we have our default client type here. Okay. So if we go to yes, when we go into the application, in some of the documentation, it will say, click on the user section, and you will see no user section. I pulled my hair out for a good few hours trying to figure this one out. But if you put it to no, it allows you to actually do it to individual users as well, rather than treating it as a public client. Just to note, if you do treat it as a public client, it will treat each user as a standard user. Okay. So for now, we're going to say no. So when we go to edit our application, we can change a few things. Okay. So we know we've added this to our manifest, and this is what allows us to select our roles. So I'm going to dip back out. And so as you can see, it's there in our app for registrations. We're just going to move up to our enterprise applications, and we should see the same application in it. So there we have it, Jamf Connect login, and there's our Jamf conditional access one that we've done as well. So if I click on here, we're now in the enterprise application section. And as you can see, I have the same application ID here, which was in the first one, with a nice little copy to clipboard. We will need this later on. And on the left, because I didn't make it public, we now have our users and groups. We click on here, and there we go. I have Alex Wilbur, who's one of my test users. I'm in here twice for some strange reason. Excellent. So as you can see, we've got the roles assigned, and it's a user object. And simply when adding a new user, because we've changed the manifest, let's choose Nestor. I can select him, and then I can just choose an admin or standard. The manifest is what creates these roles here. So you don't have to create any groups or extra roles. Before this, it's just done through the manifest. So we'll put him as a standard user as well. And this is basically what Ross showed you earlier when he was logging in on the video, typed in a user, and it set that user up on an account on the Mac, and it would have been either a standard role or an admin role. Okay, so let's assign that. We have now assigned this user. So once Nestor logs in, he will be a standard user. If I was to log in, I would be an admin, which kind of makes sense. Okay, so there's lots of stuff in this enterprise application stuff that can be confusing, but we don't need to change anything else. For now, this is all we really need to set up on the back end to make sure we get things working. Okay, so let's go back. So we remember we have our app registrations, and once it's created within app registrations and we've played around with our manifest, etc., it will now be live in our enterprise applications as well. So we now need to look at how we're going to tie in some settings with the plist and get it working with our application. Like, how does it actually see our application as well? So I'm just going to log into our demo environment and show you what I've basically got set up in here. Okay, so I'm going to go onto my computers and I'm going to go to my policies. So as you can see, all nicely categorized, bar one. We have our Jamf Connect section here. And what I've done is to make this a lot easier for you guys who are using Jamf. You can probably tell why I've done this. I've got an install Jamf Connect logos and background. So I've actually used the plist to focus on changing the background and making it look all nice, etc. This is not needed. You don't actually have to do this. There are 4 key elements that you need to have in your plist, which I will show you shortly, but you can add extra stuff in, and I will also show you where you can find all the keys for that as well. So what I've done is on enrollment, I have got this package to install, and then that will actually install Jamf Connect package as well. So if I click on here, I've been just cheeky and added a files and process, and then I've done an execute command at the bottom, which is a sudo Jamf policy trigger. That's just calling another policy, Jamf Connect. So I go back, that will just call this one for me, as you can see there. And this actually installs the Jamf Connect package. The Jamf Connect package you will be able to download from your Jamf Nation account if you have your Jamf Connect licensing. If not, do reach out to Jamf and see about obtaining a trial license. So in here, I just have the standard package, which I've Jamf Connect login, which I've downloaded from Jamf. And on enrollment, this will now run. It will install all the background pictures, etc., of where I wanted to put them, and then it will install the application as well once rolled off the back of that. So that's all done. That's really, really straightforward. There's unfortunately not enough time to go through all the Jamf Connect verify stuff. But like I said, if you do have any questions, please reach out to me after and we can point you in the right direction. I'd be happy to help. So the kind of most important part of this really is the configuration profile of this. And even though this is focused on Azure, one of the really cool things about doing it this way is you can just change between stuff if you've actually got a whole system that's been Azure and you've changed to G Suite, or you've gone from G Suite back to Azure. So I've got my Jamf Connect login preferences for Google here, and my Jamf Connect login preferences for Azure here. If I was to scope this one out and refresh my machine, I could then log into my Google directory. And if I push this one back out, I can then actually log into the Azure directory. The way of doing configuration profiles and pushing out plists through Jamf eliminates you having to do a post-install script on a package, for example, of where to put the plist, because you need to change that package every time you want to change things, right? So utilizing the custom settings within Jamf is really, really cool. So all I've got is a plist in here, which I will show you in its true form in a minute. And then I've got the preference domain. Once again, all of this stuff is available in Jamf's documentation. So as you read through it, and hopefully on this video, you'll be able to see, how it all fits together. So this one here is pushed out to my one test machine. So let's say it's one that Ross showed you earlier, pretty much. And I've had to put my plist in here just so you guys can see it. I don't have to share a million screens. But usually I would create this in Terminal, or there is an application which you can create a plist a lot easier. Is it called, it's Jamf Configurator, I believe. Is that correct, Ross? I'll make sure I've got the correct name.
Yeah, Jamf Connect Configurator, yeah. It's part of the download file you get when you buy Jamf, or you have the demo.
There you go. So that will help you build this plist, because once again, if you're not good at building plist or you don't really know about plist, then it can be daunting. So the 4 strings I spoke about, which we actually need to have to link up to our application, is these 4 here. Okay. We've got our loopback address here. So we've got our redirect URL. And then we've got our big, long, scary ID. And all that is copy and pasted into these sections of the plist. And that's how it understands the settings between the application and what we're trying to achieve here. This one you can completely ignore, but what I'm trying to show you is that background image here. I've done it's a private via Academia. That would be where my package installs my logo and my background. As you can see, the logo one's here. Key login logo, and it's here. Okay, so once this has been saved or created as a plist, oh, by the way, you can find all of this stuff There you go. There's the 4 you need. And if you really want to be adventurous, you've got lots more to look through. You know, you can add in all sorts of stuff. You know, we don't have time to go through all of these, but there is lots of things that you can add. And here we go. Background image tells you exactly what it does and the example. So once you get your head around this, it's quite simple, and you can chop and change things as you go along. Allow network selection, another good one. This will allow at the start of the login page, you might not have no network, for example, and you can actually go and have this to be allowed at the top, and you can click the little wireless bars and join another network. Okay, so lots to add on here. So once that's done, I'll go back into here. We've just uploaded this plist into here as a custom setting, and we have pushed that out to our test Mac. So hopefully, guys, this has shown you that it's not really that difficult on the Azure end. So just remember, we have set up our users and give them a license. We have to do our app registration. That then becomes an enterprise application. And then in here, we can grab our IDs and assign our users. That's pretty much it. We do our packaging, which we can get directly from Jamf. We can add some logos and custom background if we'd like to. And then we distribute our configuration profile. And this can also be done when you enroll the machine as well. You know, we can do that in pre-stage enrollments. We can get stuff to now install config profiles before anything else. So as you can see, the first time you start up a machine out of the box experience, you're going to see exactly what Ross has shown us before. So that's it from me, guys, because I could talk to you about this all day. And I don't want to scare anyone off with all the stuff. But like I said, once again, please reach out to me or Ross if you do need any help. And we will now move on to our Q&A section. So thank you for listening, everyone.
Cool. Yeah, I saw a question come up earlier. Somebody's asked, is Jamf Connect available with on-premise Jamf Pro servers? The answer to that is yeah. Jamf Connect isn't actually Jamf Pro is not a requirement for Jamf Connect. It's platform agnostic because it's just 3 applications. All you need is a distribution point. I guess one thing that is a requirement is you need a HTTPS or a cloud distribution point. It doesn't need to. The easiest way is to use something like Amazon Web Services, or if you're a Jamf Pro customer, obviously your own, you'd get the Jamf Cloud distribution point. But yeah, you can be on-prem and use Jamf Connect, obviously, to take advantage of Jamf Connect and the idea of it being zero touch. You need to have the Macs be able to connect and receive those applications regardless of where they are. So if you're a Jamf Pro server or whatever MDM server you use is externally facing and is able to be accessed over the internet, then yeah, you can do that. But yeah, the main caveat is for the installation of an application during device enrollment, you need to use a cloud distribution point or an HTTPS server to do that. So that would be that. I thought I could mark his answered, but I cannot. So yeah, so that's one question. I don't know if there's anything else. Oh yeah, here we go. They're flying in. Eddie says we don't have cloud distribution points. I'm sorry. Yeah, you'll need. You could still use Jamf Connect if you don't have a cloud distribution point. It just means that you wouldn't be able to take advantage of that zero touch workflow. Hong Max, that's what mobile app is compatible with Jamf Connect and MFA. So any it depends on your cloud identity provider. So any cloud identity provider that can, it's not really a Jamf Connect issue. It's more of a who can your cloud identity provider work with. So I'm pretty sure, like I know for Okta, for example, which we use at Jamf, we do 2FA through Duo. You can also use just Okta's built-in one with one login. I've seen it using Google Authenticator, the one login app. Same goes with Azure. So there's that question. How does
what
Jamf?
about the SCCM one? I mean, to be honest, I would actually like to pick your brain on that as well in terms
Oh,
of the
really?
update of the physical application. I guess when
So,
you're
yes, John.
updating and you want to push out a new version, you can do that silently, and it will just pick up the same configuration.
So the question from John is, how do the Jamf products interact with SCCM and Intune, both in terms of updates and application deployment? So I'm pretty sure our SCCM plugin is gone now. I don't believe it. If it's not, it was end of life for a long time. Application deployment. So the way our integration with Intune works is it's really about reporting information. So
yeah, I can give a little bit of information on the Intune stuff. When setting up Intune as well, this needs to be activated by the end user through self-service as well to create a link between the device and Intune. And basically, it works with compliancy and reporting. That's pretty much your best bet with Intune. I will say that in a shared environment, there's not really any room for Intune. I think Ross would probably agree with me on that. It is more based on a one-to-one environment because it needs to be kind of tied to that user on that machine.
The reason the reason you'd integrate with Intune is if you want conditional access for your macOS devices. If you don't want conditional access on your macOS devices, then you get all the inventory and all the reporting out of Jamf Pro anyway. John, that may be a question if you want to reach out to your account manager at Academia, and we can or raise it with support, and we can maybe have a bigger question on there, slightly off topic of what we're talking about today, but certainly can dive deeper into that integration at a later point and spend a hell of a lot of time on chatting about the different things you can do. Question we've got from Daniel Taylor. Sorry if it's talked about. How does Jamf Connect handle keychains when passwords are changed? So if you use something like Jamf Connect Verify or Jamf Connect Sync, depending on your identity provider, so background on that, Jamf Connect Sync is for Okta, Verify is for other products. That's going to change in the future. What happens is when you obviously initially create the account, the password is synced to the keychain on the Mac. When you change the password via the identity provider, we have, again, like Gary showed, one of the preference files is to sync the local password with the cloud identity password. So what would happen there is then a user would be prompted saying, "Hey, you've just changed your password. Please enter the new one in," and then it would update the keychain.
I wish I could have went through the verify stuff as well, guys, but I didn't want to drag it out too long as well.
It's real simple, I guess. For those of you who haven't seen it before, it's literally just an application that sits in the menu bar, and it checks in with your cloud identity provider, I think by default every 15 minutes. And basically all it does is goes, "Hey, we've got this password stored. Is this right? Yes or no?" When it says yes, you carry on as normal. When it says no, then we get prompted with Azure to say change your password. Once you change your password, off you go. It'll be good to go. So there we go. We've got a few more. Edwin Jaborn. We use Cisco ISE for network authentication. Currently, Macs are in AD, and the computer's username and password is used to authenticate. With Jamf Connect and Azure AD, do computers get registered into Azure to retain this functionality? Short answer to that, I think, is no. Because I imagine the Macs are getting a certificate from AD to do that. So we can, I guess it's a question, Ed, of how are we delivering that certificate? If they're getting that using AD, Kerberos authentication, I assume we can do Kerberos with Jamf Connect, but once again, we're reliant on the Mac having the ability to communicate to an on-premise Active Directory server.
So I guess that falls under the machine being bound to the network rather than just being associated.
Yeah, I mean, we can do some stuff around that with ADCS connector. You can be not bound and still get a computer certificate. So you can do some things around that. And that'd be a question to reach out to support, Jamf support. If you're looking at it Connect and you're wanting to change things, reach out to support, reach out to myself, and we can certainly look into that. I'll just follow up with your next question, and then we'll get on to Stuart. Do the admin accounts configured in Azure via the manifest get secure tokens locally on the Macs without intervention? So no, but there's some really cool functionality in Jamf Connect called Laps. So it's local, and that so you can basically get a secure token without having to create an admin on the account that a user can see. So yeah, if you look at the Jamf, I think there's actually it's not a Jamf article, but he's a Jamf employee, traveling tech guy. He's got a really nice article on Laps and Jamf Connect, and it kind of dives into that. So definitely give that a Google. You can see how that all works in action. But yeah, it would be the way to do it.
Yeah, I'll second that. It's really, really good stuff from traveling tech guy as well.
And then Stuart Wicks said, "What's the main advantage of Jamf Connect over Nomad No-Load?" Well, the advantage is different. Jamf Connect is for cloud identity. Nomad is for on-premise Active Directory. That's the differences.
Yep.
They are,
and obviously the only thing to mention is, yeah, with Nomad you can have your Kerberos authentication because you're authenticating to your on-premise AD rather than your cloud identity.
So you can still get a Kerberos token with Jamf Connect Verify if you still want that, but it just again needs to be on-prem. Yeah. So that's the difference on the two there. So I think I
would probably say you can slightly change no loads to look at slightly different over Jamf Connect, and that's about it, because you have no cloud identity provider in the center where you can change images, etc.
Right. Yeah.
It's not really an advantage, but you know, it's something.
Yeah, totally. And I guess the other thing is with Jamf Connect, when you buy Jamf Connect, you get Jamf support. So, you know, not only do you obviously have the Jamf Nation community and all that good stuff, you've got our support team who can help you with all those things as well when you're using a cloud identity provider. Cool. I think that's probably, yeah. Of course, you, Gary, if you want to call it. But...
Yeah, I think we'll stay in the webinar for a little bit anyway. We'll put our lovely thank you screen and our lovely music on as well. But we will be around in the chat, so please send us any more questions you do have. But thank you for joining. We really appreciate it, guys. And Ross, thank you once again.
I know, pleasure. Thank you.